Andrew Zimmern's globe-trotting culinary adventures might seem glamorous, but his personal life has been marked by significant struggles. He has faced homelessness and battled mental health issues, revealing that his journey has been far from easy. Andrew Zimmern's early life on Manhattan's Upper East Side was far from conventional. His parents, though best friends, married despite Zimmern's mother knowing of his father's sexuality. When Zimmern was 5, his father chose to embrace his identity as an openly gay man, leading to the parents' divorce. Zimmern opened up about his struggles on the Hilarious World of Depression podcast, revealing that he began experiencing significant mental health issues as a young child. His behaviors, including compulsive risk-taking and shoplifting, were early signs of deeper problems. Zimmern also spoke on the Back from Broken podcast about his early exposure to alcohol, recalling how he would sneak sips of his father's scotch and soda. For him, it was more about the thrill of rebellion than the alcohol itself. Zimmern admitted, "I was addicted to the sneakiness and the lying before I was addicted to how the booze made me feel." After his parents' divorce, Andrew Zimmern lived with his mother and visited his father on weekends until a devastating event upended his life. In the summer of 1974, at the age of 13, Zimmern returned from sleepaway camp to discover his mother in a coma. An anesthesia error had led to severe brain damage from interrupted oxygen flow. When his mother eventually emerged from the coma, Zimmern faced a profound change. On the Back from Broken podcast, he described the painful reality. She spent years in hospitals, mental health clinics trying to get right. Instead of dying, where there could be an opportunity to complete a grieving process, the mother that I knew the first 13 years of my life, she was gone and she was replaced by someone else. As a child in the 1960s, Andrew Zimmern's first encounter with alcohol came early, getting drunk around the age of 10. By his early teens, following his mother's medical crisis, he often found himself home alone. Struggling with feelings of anxiety and sorrow, Zimmern turned to alcohol and drugs to numb his pain.
I was a drug addict and alcoholic since I was 13 years old.
At just 13, Zimmern used his family's credit card to buy alcohol and even dipped into his mother's emergency fund for drugs. By the age of 15, his routine included smoking marijuana and snorting cocaine before school. His substance use escalated to dealing drugs, relying daily on a mix of marijuana, cocaine, alcohol, and prescription pills. Despite these issues, he managed to keep his grades up. Before graduating high school, Zimmern had already experimented with heroin. His college years were marked by frequent absences due to his worsening addiction. During these periods, he traveled internationally, studying cooking in Italy, France, and Hong Kong. Even amid his substance abuse struggles, Zimmern found solace and expression in his culinary pursuits, which became a beacon of his passion for food. As a child, Zimmern often traveled with his father, an advertising executive, on international business trips. Their adventures exposed Zimmern to a world of exotic cuisine and a prestigious circle of food enthusiasts, including the famed chef James Beard. Zimmern even enjoyed Sunday brunches at Beard's home, which fueled his early passion for food. Despite this rich exposure, Zimmern's relationship with his father was strained. When his mother fell into a coma, his father did not take him in, leaving the 13-year-old to live alone in his mother's apartment. Zimmern reflected on this challenging period during his appearance on the Back from Broken podcast, highlighting the complexities of his family situation. "My father continues to this day to be my hero. I have him on a pedestal. It took me 25 years into sobriety to get to the point where I could admit that day when my father dropped me off at the apartment that he abandoned me." Throughout the tumultuous years of his youth, Zimmern remained passionately dedicated to food. Cooking with his mother and grandmother ignited his early interest, and he took his first job at a Long Island seafood restaurant during the summers. After earning his degree from Vassar College in 1984, Zimmern immersed himself in the New York City fine dining scene. His career flourished as he transitioned from chef to restaurateur and joined a food service development and consulting group. Despite his professional success, Zimmern struggled with severe drug and alcohol addiction, which he admits blurred much of his memory from the 1980s.
It crashed and cratered me.
By the early 1990s, Zimmern's addiction had become undeniable, leading to his eviction from multiple apartments and strained relationships with friends and family. His downward spiral culminated when a consulting client discovered him passed out on the floor, resulting in his dismissal from the job. Desperate and out of options, Zimmern wandered into a bar where he met a group of squatters. He followed them to an abandoned building in Lower Manhattan, where he spent around a year living in squalor. Zimmern slept on a makeshift bed of dirty clothes and used stolen cleaner from a bodega to deter rats and cockroaches. Reflecting on this bleak period, Zimmern shared his experience on the Back from Broken podcast, recounting the desperation and survival tactics of those days. "I just can't imagine doing that today. It's beyond my comprehension. And yet, I did it. And the reason that I did was that I believed with every ounce of my being I did not have a choice. There was no choice. I had to do it. In early 1992, Zimmern hit rock bottom. Overcome with guilt and desperation, he stole jewelry from his godmother, selling it for $200. He used the money to check into a rundown hotel, buy 2 cases of vodka, and cut the phone line in his room. Zimmern then drank heavily for nearly 4 days. During this intense period, he experienced a surprising moment of clarity, which he later discussed on the Let's Talk Addiction and Recovery podcast. He said, "For the first time since I was 7 or 8 years old, I didn't have that ace bandage of pressure around my chest. And for whatever reason, I did something that I had never done before in my whole life, which was ask another human being for help." Zimmern reconnected the phone and reached out to his friend Clark, who took him in to clean up and recover. However, while Clark was at work, Zimmern consumed all the alcohol in the house and took change to buy more. Unbeknownst to him, Clark had already arranged an intervention and rehab program to help him get back on track. In 1992, Zimmern touched down in Minnesota at Hazelden, a respected rehab center in the Twin Cities, to begin his recovery. Immersed in the 12-step program, he spent 5 weeks in treatment before moving to a halfway house where he was required to find work. Zimmern took a job as a dishwasher at Dubin's Cafe in St. Paul, which he later described as the best job he ever had, according to Tasting Table. He then became a busboy at Cafe Un Deux Trois, where his dedication quickly led him to the role of executive chef. Zimmern held this position until 1998, when he left to pursue new career opportunities.
And just started building.
When his earlier ventures fell short, Zimmern, now sober and driven, turned to food media. He began with local food reviews and brief TV segments. His big break came when the Travel Channel picked up his pitch for Bizarre Foods. The show became a major hit, significantly boosting Zimmern's career and establishing him as a food celebrity. Bizarre Foods propelled Zimmern to great heights, but a 2018 interview with Fast Company disrupted his successful trajectory. During the chat at the 2018 Minnesota State Fair, things took a turn when Zimmern discussed his new venture, Lucky Cricket, a Chinese restaurant. He ambitiously shared plans to open 200 Lucky Cricket locations across Middle America, branding himself as an entrepreneur with a soul, striving to make the world a better place. However, the conversation took a strange turn when he added,
"I think I'm saving the souls of all the people from having to dine at these horse restaurants masquerading as Chinese food that are in the Midwest."
The reaction was swift and severe. Zimmern quickly apologized on Facebook, addressing the Chinese American community for his remarks. Production on Bizarre Foods and the Zimmern List was paused midway through their seasons. Ultimately, Bizarre Foods was canceled, ending Zimmern's 12-year run and closing out the series after 199 episodes. It's unclear if Zimmern's controversial remarks affected his restaurant struggles. Lucky Cricket debuted in St. Louis Park, Minnesota in November 2018. However, with the heightened scrutiny following his Fast Company interview, food critics were especially harsh on his celebrity-owned venture, casting a shadow of skepticism over its success.
I should have been much more judicious in my choice of words.
Lucky Cricket faced a roller coaster of reviews from enthusiastic to critical, with its quirky decor and uneven food quality often highlighted. By July 2019, the restaurant shut down after just 8 months, citing renovations as the reason. However, it reopened 2 months later with a revamped menu featuring Vietnamese and Korean-inspired dishes. Despite this fresh start, Lucky Cricket succumbed to the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic and closed permanently, never to reopen. During his Bizarre Foods years, Zimmern crisscrossed the globe, exploring over 170 countries and spending around 250 days a year traveling. His hectic schedule, filled with filming, public appearances, and events, strained his family life. Adding to the challenge, Zimmern has candidly shared the difficulties his son Noah, born in 2005, has faced. In a 2014 interview with Minneapolis-St. Paul magazine, Zimmern discussed the impact these challenges had on his family life. 2.5 years ago, our family was in crisis. Zimmern expressed his gratitude to the Washburn Center for Children in Minneapolis for their comprehensive family-centered treatment plan. Despite this support, the relentless demands of his career continued. The pressures of fame and numerous responsibilities left him struggling to balance his professional and personal life. In an interview with MinnPost, he discussed the impact of his demanding schedule on his family, revealing the challenges he faced in managing both his career and family commitments. They are victims of my popularity. I'm sure more days than not they would say it's not worth it, but I have this business to support. Andrew Zimmern first crossed paths with Rashia Hawes in 1999 at a cooking school where he was an instructor and she worked in the shop. They wed in 2002, a time when Zimmern had achieved sobriety but was still relatively unknown. While Zimmern frequently mentioned in interviews how his career was challenging his family life, the full strain on his marriage remained hidden from the public eye. By 2018, as he geared up for the launch of Lucky Cricket, Zimmern was also navigating a separation from his wife. Their divorce was finalized in March 2020. Despite the end of his marriage and the unrelenting demands of his career, Zimmern has managed to find solace and balance. He remains a dedicated father, sharing with the New York Times his commitment to family amidst the ongoing pressures of his professional life. I want to be the best dad and the best ex I can be. If you or anyone you know needs help with addiction issues, help is available. Visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website or contact the National Helpline at 1-800-662-HELP, 4357.